So a brother asked me after my last show. Last show I was talking about how young men need to be followers. I'm sorry, leaders and not followers when it comes to being in a gang. When it comes to participating in street activity in your environment, it shouldn't be seen as something you have to do. You know what I mean? You should be able to think bigger than that. You should be able to think of being a lawyer or a engineer or not a rapper and all. You know what I mean? So thinking bigger when you have a child that's in a hood environment, right? So he asked me, he was like, look, man, I'm dating, and I want to know, how do I deal with women who didn't have a father, right? And I was like, damn, that's some deep shit. That's a thing that I don't think we consider when we ask them questions about the person and determining we want to be with them, and we're kind of getting to know them. It's not often that we talk about these type of topics, right? And again, I was thinking about it when the brother asked me to talk about this. I was like, wait a minute. So yeah, as a man, it may be difficult dating a woman that didn't have a father. But what if you didn't have a father, right? So we need to deal with this from that perspective. Like, if you are, we'll look at it from both directions, right? If you're a man and you had two parents in your home, you had a stable two-home environment. In this environment, it helped you with a few things, right? You were able to see your parents communicate. You were able to see how things get divvied up, like who handles what, right? And this, again, if you're in a stable home environment, these are some things that you're looking at, right? Like how things get divvied up, who handles what, how the man speaks to the woman, what type of love is being transferred. You're watching all these things, right? Now, if you find a woman that you love or a woman that you into and you want to be in a relationship with her, you have to have the conversation with her if she never had a dad in her house, right? Because if she never had a father in the house, then there's some things she may not be used to looking at. She may not know how to communicate when things get tough inside of the home. She may not know who does what, right? Like who should do this thing, who should do that thing. She may not be aware of these things, right? She may not be aware of how to handle situations when things get tough. When you guys are in the house together and things aren't going right, how is she going to handle that, right? She doesn't have a tool belt, so to speak, to deal with these things. So I think one of the first things you should do, if you're a man, and and I'll go to a different situation here in a minute, but and women can apply this same thing. If you're a man and you are dating a woman that never had a father or didn't have a father growing up, you have to sit down and talk to her about particular things. Okay, how did your mom do this? Who did this in your household? Who did that in your household? Find out how she lived in the home specifically, so before you guys even move together, you'll have a clear picture of what she didn't see, right? You'll have a clear picture of what she didn't see, what she did see, and you can then trade notes. Like, you know what? I was in a two-parent home, and this is how things happen in my home. You see what I'm saying? Then you guys can, because I think when two people are in a relationship, the best way to address how to handle anything is honestly removing tradition. Like, remove anything that's going on outside of the house. You guys should honestly be able to create your own traditions. You create what works for you. If marriage works, do it. If it don't work, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, you create what works for you. When you listen to people outside of your house telling you about how to handle your relationship, that shit is never going to work for you. It should be based on the two people in the situation. You know what I mean? So if you're a dude and you have a woman that didn't have a father in her house, you gotta sit her down and have a conversation with her. You gotta sit down and ask her, well, how did this happen in your house? Who took care of this in the house? Was there an uncle or some kind of man that stepped in, right? And then from there, you can begin to see like her sensibilities. And the same thing for when, the same thing happens for when, let's say you a man and you didn't have a dad, right? This is even worse. Like if it's two people who were raised with just a mom, y'all gotta sit down and craft how you're gonna live your life together. Because neither one of you know what to do. Like you need to be aware. If you were raised in a home with just one parent, there's going to be a lot of shit you don't know how to do when it comes to when it comes to coming together with another person and working in the home together, like communicating and doing things as a team. You may not be a fucking good teammate if you're not used to seeing a team. You see what I'm saying? So if you're a dude and you didn't have a father either, I think it's extreme. Y'all need to sit down and say, okay, fuck what we were told. Fuck what people around us are doing. Let's sit here and decide who's gonna do what based on who we are, right? Based on our strengths and based on our weaknesses. Couples should be doing this anyway, but I think, again, family, if there was no father in a home, this should be addressed. We get so used to the trauma that's been placed on us by this system and by our families, we don't even see it fit to have conversations about it. We don't even see it like something's wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not saying something is wrong with you, family, but being raised in a one-parent home, there's something wrong with that. There's a level of dysfunction that comes with that. Can't nobody tell me nothing different. Now, granted, you may have had an uncle that came around a lot. You may have had a cousin who helped you when it came to like what he considered manhood was and how he can help you progress in that area, right? But if you didn't live with a man and a woman that was in a relationship in your home, there's things you're gonna struggle with, right? So first, like I was saying before, as men, even women, but I'm talking to my fellas out here, you gotta humble yourself and you gotta approach the situation from a perspective, okay, I don't know what to do. Like, it's bigger than just taking out the garbage and shit. Like, what is my actual role in the home as the man? Again, I know what society says a man is, and you can take those traditional roles if you want to, and that may work for you. But in actuality, I think if we're talking about a long-term relationship where you want to be with somebody, you want to have a loving relationship, you want that shit to last for a long time, one of the first things you may want to do is throw out all traditions. Now, you guys may decide some of these traditions fit your relationship style. You may decide that, but you may not. So I say throw it all out and then come back. Decide, okay, we going to do this? Are we going to celebrate holidays? Are we going to get married? Do we believe in actually getting married? Do we want to get a business license and make our relationship a business? Maybe we want to. Maybe we don't. These are things we got to look at. Who's going to handle finances? Who's better at it, right? Who's going to work on things in the house? Who's better at it, right? Like, it's a thing that has to happen between two people. But the bottom line is, and I want to make sure I cover everything I have here, and the bottom line is, if we all are looking to have like a stable environment where our kids can prosper, and as a man we can make sure our woman is happy and she's fulfilled, we have to get an understanding of what she's used to, right? And of the biggest part of that, not necessarily used to as far as relationships are concerned, but her household, family. If she was raised in a traumatic ass household, like a lot of black folks are, where it was just a grandma and it was no, then that's not going to be worse for you, but that's more that you should be addressing. If y'all was raised, because I know people who, one person was raised by the grandma, the other person was like in foster care and all this kind of shit. These are traumatic upbringings. When kids are born and they don't have parents, right? This is traumatic, family. And if you don't humble yourself and realize this, you will bring that trauma into any new relationship that you go in. Relationship with a woman, relationship with a boss, relationship with your kids, whatever that may be, right? And I want to read y'all some statistics here about fatherlessness in our community and how it affects us. Now, this is for everybody. This is black and white, right? So if a kid, and this is from the, where did I get this information? This is from the fatherhood.org website, and it shows here that if a kid grows up in a house, and some of us knew this already, but this is important for us to understand, right? If a kid grows up in a house without a father, they're 4 times greater risk of poverty, more likely to have behavioral problems, 2 times greater risk of infant mortality, more likely to go to prison, of course, more likely to commit a crime, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. Let me repeat that. 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. Wow, family, right? So this is for all my fathers out there, all my fathers to be out there. Here is the reason why we need to be in our kids' lives, family. Here's why your presence can mean the difference between your kid going to college and your kid stripping on the goddamn pole. Like, that's real, you know what I mean? So more likely to face abuse and neglect, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, 2 times more likely to suffer obesity, 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. So these statistics are basically saying kids who don't have fathers in the home are fucked. Kids who don't have fathers in the home, if they do become successful and a well-rounded person, you got lucky. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's why it was so important for me, my organization, Melanated Fathers of America, understanding that as a black man, I have 5 kids. I have 4 before the age of 23 with 2 different women. I did this shit in an extremely sloppy manner. I was going back and forth between, I was doing shit all the wrong way, right? So I need to come to grips with that. I need to say, okay, this is what I did. How do I prevent my kids from going through the same thing, right? And really, until recently, I'm going to be honest, as a man, as a father, I don't think I did a good enough job of reflecting on them what I did wrong in my life so they can see that as a learning tool and do things a little bit differently. You know what I mean? Because 2 of my older kids have children already. And, excuse me, I feel 2 ways about that. Of course, excuse me, family. Excuse me, of course, a new life is a blessing. New life in any form is a blessing. First, we always have to say that, right? But I'm a realist too. And I understand that if a kid is born without 2 parents in the home, if a kid is born without the proper resources, they're going to have an extremely hard time in life. They're going to have to go through obstacles and turmoil that they wouldn't have to, or the turmoil could have been lessened if the approach was different. So even though these are my children, I'm going to tell any man, don't have a kid until you're financially stable, at least a little. Don't have a kid until you know the woman that you're with is the woman that you want to be with, right? Like if you know this person after a year and a half, 2 years, in my opinion, this ain't enough time to talk about building a family with them, right? Like it's all of our responsibility to impute this kind of wisdom on our children so they can understand, like, just having kids ain't what you're supposed to do. You don't just supposed to be having kids all willy-nilly out here in these streets. Having a kid over here, having a kid over there. We should be trying our best to build families. Now, granted, things happen. Even the people who planned it the best, shit still happened with them. So with knowing that, for us who didn't plan it at all, you kind of hoping things end up the right way for you. You know what I mean? So, look, family, dating or being in a relationship with somebody who didn't have a dad, growing up without a father, this is traumatic. Now, granted, a lot of us end up doing good, having nice jobs, figuring out our father wasn't there, so we want to be there. I know a lot of men who take that pain into their new situation and use it as fuel. You know what I mean? And that's what you're supposed to do. But let's be honest about the psychology of all of this, right? I've been with women who was only raised with their mother, right? And I've been with women who had 2 parents in the home, 2 stable parents in the home. And when I tell you, family, it's a night and day difference. Now, women, sometimes women gonna be crazy any goddamn way. No matter if they had a dad or a mother in the house. But a woman's temperament when she had a father in the house, a woman's understanding of how things works when she had a father in the house, a woman's reliance on you when it comes to certain things when they had a father in the house. There's a higher level of expectation when she had a father in the house. That's just the bottom line. If you with a woman who didn't have a dad in the house, you have a lot of responsibility on your hands because unfortunately you're a man, quote unquote, but she has no idea how a man looks. Feel me when I say that. If you're in a relationship with a woman who didn't have a father, who didn't have any strong male influences around her, she doesn't really know how a man looks. You can be a piece of shit and she can think you're the man. You can be a piece of shit and she can think, oh my God, this guy is the greatest. You know what I mean? Why? Because she hasn't had an example of what a man is supposed to be. So as a man, I think that's a big responsibility. And I know dudes, when I was younger, I would take advantage of this. I'm ashamed to admit, but I would take advantage of the fact that this woman, obviously, and I didn't know it was a daddy issue when I was a teenager. I was just like, damn, this woman clings to me. She clings on to my every word. She really believes what I say to a high degree. Her self-esteem doesn't seem to be all there. I didn't know what I was looking at, right? Until I was around one woman, and I'll never say her name or anything, but I was around one woman who, how can I put it? Really loved me, really loved being around me, loved my dirty draws, always calling me, always on my ass to a degree, right? I was bringing her through shit at the time, but she was always on my ass. We was trying to figure things out. Her dad came to town. Her father came to town, right? For this 2 weeks maybe that her father was in town, she didn't even call me. She ignored me. Like she had this, how can I put it? She had this confidence about her that I didn't recognize. Then I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what the hell? This bitch didn't bumped her head or shit. She talking to me like I'm shit. She ain't answering my calls. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was looking at, right? As I got older, I realized, oh, because when her father left, she cried for weeks, right? I still didn't get it. Like, damn, it's just your dad. You say you love him. You got a relationship with him. What's the problem? Well, kids need their dad to be present. Like, you can have a father who lives in a different state. He can send you money, and he can talk to you all the time, and you can know he loves you, but it's nothing like having a father in the house. It's nothing like having a father that you can grab that's close to you. You know what I mean? And especially for little girls, if they don't have a dad around, they don't know what they're looking for, family. So if you a father out there with a little girl, it's tough for boys too, but if you're a father of a little girl and you're not there, you're going to make it extremely hard for her when it comes time for her to date, right? When it comes time for her to find the man that she want to be with, she's not going to know what she's looking for, family. So it's our job as men, especially men with daughters, set the precedence for the kind of dude you want your daughter to be with. You see what I'm saying? Because if you a dude with a daughter and you out here in these streets and she see you, she gonna end up fucking with a dude just like you, family. Believe it or not. But if you show her something different, if you show her that you respect women, if you show her that you respect her, if you treat her a certain way on Valentine's Day or on her birthday or bring her out to eat, if you do things for her to show her, I'm putting you on a pedestal and any man that come behind me got to do the same thing, you'll have a better opportunity of having a young lady that has a solid foundation. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So that's important, family. That's something that we always need to look at. To my brother who was asking me to talk about this, I hope that was sufficient enough for you, family. We can continue the conversation if you want to. But the bottom line is, if you are dating someone who does not have a father, a conversation needs to happen. If both of y'all didn't have a father, a real big conversation needs to happen about what you are used to, about what happens in the household. As a man, look, fellas, don't be afraid to know, I don't know what a man's supposed to do. Don't be afraid to start there, family. If you didn't have a man in your house, how the fuck do you know what a man is supposed to? Now, you can, like I said, you can go by the traditional man. I'm supposed to work on things. I'm supposed to fix stuff when it breaks. I'm supposed to dump the garbage. You can look at these traditional roles of a man and use some of this. But what about emotionally, right? How are you supposed to act emotionally in the home? How you psychologically, how are things supposed to pan out in your home? You know what I mean? Because some of us, only growing up with a mom, we are overly emotional. And I'm talking to myself now too. Like, men can agree with it or admit to it or not. I know for a fact, for some of us, if you grew up and the only person you heard of authority, the only person you heard talking was your mom, when she's upset, when she's happy, if this is the only person you're around speaking, when you get upset, when you get happy, you may sound like your damn mama. Now, this ain't a horrible thing, family. We just have to be aware of how we was raised here in this country. And if you want to unpack these things and do things differently, like the first part of changing is admitting there's a problem. You got it? So do me a favor, fellas. You dating a girl who didn't have a father, you didn't have one, do your due diligence on what you didn't see in the home. And then go back and say, okay, how would I handle that? How should I handle that? Sit down with your woman and have a conversation about it. Because we say communication is important and all that, but a lot of times we don't be communicating the way we need to. You feel me? So this has been another episode, man, of the Melanated Convo podcast. I want to thank everybody who tuned in and chimed in and was in here talking with me. I definitely appreciate it. Please go to the Melanated Fathers TV YouTube page. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Everything will be going through the YouTube page from now on. It'll be Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. The website, Melanated Fathers, is being reconstructed. It's going to look a little bit different. I'll have my shirts and the products that I'm going to sell on there. The podcast will be on there. I'll have links to everything that I'm doing. So again, I appreciate everybody watching the show. It's been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Do me a favor too, man. Share this video, like this video, tell your friends about it. This has been another episode of the show, man. I'm out.